Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another very interesting topic today. And today we will be talking about something based on the ancient scriptures, which can be used to find out what kind of a residence you'll have, what kind of house you live in, or will you live in. And we all want to live in big houses, at least not big, but spacious enough and comfortable with good surroundings, so on and so forth. And the ancient scriptures have given us some kind of an idea as to, based on your birth chart, you can determine as to what kind of a home will you live in, okay, and what kind of a house and what kind of surroundings, and they've given detailed explanations. And today we'll be discussing about that. And as we know, the fourth house, as we know based on traditional astrology, what we've been studying, the fourth house is an extremely important house to determine our residence, our house which we live in, okay, because the fourth house is the house of our home, our residence. So fourth house is very important, but in this particular video we'll be going further into the details, just not looking at the fourth house in the Rashi chart or the Lagna chart or the main chart, whatever you may like to call it. We will be going into the Navamsha, which is a D9 chart based on the shlokas given to us by the ancient scriptures, okay. And by the way, once again, I'll try to remind you that all my videos are a direct reference to the ancient scriptures. It's not a figment of imagination of any modern day astrologer, okay. So it's not something which has been published in paper as some astrologers own principles or technique. It's coming directly from the ancient scriptures, okay. So the ancient scriptures have said, and of course, like I said, the fourth house is the house of residence, and we are going to go a step further into the Navamsha chart. So in the Navamsha chart, we are not going to see the fourth house in the Navamsha chart. We are going to see where the Atmakaraka is placed in the Navamsha chart, okay, and that is the Karakamsa, as we know that. So we'll see where the Atmakaraka is placed in the D9 chart, and we'll look at the fourth house from where the Atmakaraka is placed in the Navamsha chart, and that will give us a detailed idea as to what kind of a house you'll be living in, okay. So the ancient scriptures describe that in case if the planet Moon and the planet Venus are situated in fourth house from the Atmakaraka placed in the D9 chart, okay, then the person will be living in a big house, or he'll be the owner of a big house, okay, kind of a palace, palatial house, okay. I mean, these days and ages there are no kings, but I'm sure if you look at the birth charts of kings who have lived in palaces, you may find this kind of a combination, okay. Either the planet Moon and the planet Venus, both are situated. It has to be both, okay. It's not either. Either both are situated in fourth house from the Atmakaraka placed in the D9 chart, or if there's an aspect of both these planets in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart, okay, which is the Karakamsa once again. So the person is going to be living in palatial houses, okay. Check out various charts of big, like Bill Gates and Lakshmi Mittal, and try to see if there's a combination like this or not. But this has been described in the ancient scriptures. Also, it further goes on to say that in case there is a planet which is in its exaltation in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart, then also he will be living in a palace, okay. He's going to be living in a palace in case a planet is in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka placed in the D9 chart, and they have not mentioned whether this planet is going to be a malefic or a benefic. So it's any planet which is in its exaltation in fourth house from the Atmakaraka placed in the D9 chart, a person will be living in a palatial house, and like I said, ancient times it could be a palace, but today Nobody lives in palaces. So the other, this shloka extends into something further, that in case, it explains further, that in case the planet Rahu and Saturn, both, again it's not either, in case the planet Rahu and Saturn are placed either in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart, or if they are aspecting the fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart, okay, both have to aspect or be placed in the fourth house from the Karakamsa, then a person is going to be living in a house which is made out of huge stones, or stones rather. So why I say stones is, well, today, in the last 100 years, you know, we've started using bricks and cement and all kinds of modern stuff, or, well, in the Western countries they use wood, but places like India still use bricks and cement, which was given to India by the British. But before the British came in, or, you know, until the British were pretty new to India, people used to build homes. Well, in villages they were made out of mud, and for people who were rich, they used to make palaces even, or forts and fortresses, from stones, and there was no cement there, so they used to use lime to kind of hold these bricks together. And these limestones, what the limes, or the that material which was used to hold these stones together, was very prevalent, and it lasted much more. That's why you see all these big forts and fortresses and huge palaces still intact, because I think the life of a cement is not as much, although limestone is a major ingredient of manufacturing cement, but still pure lime was used to join, not bricks, because there weren't any bricks there, but pure lime was used to hold these big stones together. So that's what's been described in the ancient scriptures, that in case Rahu and Saturn either would be placed in fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart, or if they were aspecting fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart both, then a person will have a house which is made of huge stones, okay, boulders or stones, natural. So check out some charts based on that. Also, in case Ketu and Mars both are either situated in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart, or if they are both, Mars and Ketu are aspecting, okay, the fourth house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart, then he will live in a house of bricks. Now, why have the ancient sages given us bricks? Because we know bricks is made out of mud, which is baked mud, and there were no bricks in the ancient times. But in Indian villages, at least, I'm pretty sure, they used to make houses out of mud, okay. There was some kind of a technique where they used to live in houses made out of, you know, they had thick walls made out of mud. So we can relate it to that, you know, a person who's going to be having an aspect or a placement of Ketu and Mars from fourth house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart will be living in that kind of a house where Mars and Ketu both are involved. Now, what if either Mars or Ketu are involved here? Okay, it is not both. Then of course you will also see that there is definitely an impact of people living in houses which is made out of either bricks or mud, which is earth, because Mars is the element earth. So that's how, you know, the mud ingredient comes in. And, you know, like I said, you know, in ancient days, until about 200 years ago, at least in India, they used to live in houses made out of mud, thick walls made out of mud. So that's the kind of what has been described. Similarly, if you go back what we discussed about both Rahu and Saturn either placed or aspecting the fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart, we said that a person will be living in a house made out of huge stones. So we can also apply this to that extension of the shloka, that if either Saturn or Rahu are either aspecting or placed in fourth house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart, then also there is an element of stones involved, in the kind of huge boulders, stones involved in the house that person will be living. So of course it's mentioned both, but it can be applied to some extent to either Rahu or Saturn. Similarly, it can be applied both to the for the houses made out of mud or bricks, either Mars or Ketu. Okay. Now, very interestingly, the shloka extends further, and it says that in case there is some kind of a yoga or either aspect or placement of the planet Jupiter. So if Jupiter is somewhere involved in fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart, either by placement or aspect, then the person will be living in a house made out of wood. So there's a very direct connection here. Also, we can get some insight of the planet Jupiter having a connection with wood. Okay, although we've studied in our earlier videos that, or noticed in our earlier videos, that the planet Saturn has a connection with wood, because Saturn rules over dry kind of trees, and trees which bear fruits. There's a connection of the planet Sun there. But here, as far as when building a house is concerned, and if it's made of wood, then there's a connection of the planet Jupiter. Okay, so check out this combination, fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart. If there's a connection either by aspect or placement of the planet Jupiter, the person will be living in a house, or will have a house, or will build a house made out of wood. Okay, very, very common in the West. And then the shloka extends further, that in case the planet Sun is involved here, either by aspect or placement in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart. Okay, if there's no planet here, we know that in case there's no planet, look at the Rashi, look at the zodiac sign, and see the zodiac sign ruler there. So if it's Leo and there's no planet, fourth house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart, then we know that it's Sun. So first look at the planets which are placed, also aspects, and also in case there's no aspect or no planet placement, then look at the Lord of the Rashi or the zodiac sign which falls in fourth house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart. Okay, so whenever Sun is involved, it has been mentioned in the ancient scriptures that the house is going to be made out of grass. Okay, again, in various Indian villages, at least I've noticed that if I go into the interiors, I've seen some houses made out of dry leaves and grass and all that stuff. So there's a connection of the planet Sun here given in the ancient scriptures. I've seen it in places like interiors or in the villages of Bengal, which is east part of India. If I go interior, there are certain houses which are made out of dry leaves and grass, and sometimes it's up over the trees, but not anymore. But like I said, it may have been a few hundred years ago. Okay, so that's what the ancient scriptures are describing. So we've come to a conclusion here that fourth house from the Atmakaraka place in the D9 chart will give us an idea as to whether the person will have a house or what kind of a house he will have. Okay, but there's a qualification here that in case there's an association of the planet Mercury there, okay, then it's not very good. It's not a very good combination in case Mercury is involved somehow in the fourth house from the Atmakarka and the D9 chart. It generally does not give a good combination to build your own home. Generally, it has been noticed that people have lived in rented accommodations. Okay, so placement of or aspect of the planet Mercury is not very, very good, auspicious to build the person's own home or house. Okay, and then an extreme situation has been mentioned in the ancient scriptures, that in case there is the planet Moon placed, and there's no other planet placed in the fourth house from the Atmakarka and the D9 chart. If only there's a planet of the only there's a placement of the planet Moon there, and there's no other aspect of any other planet to Moon, then that person will have to sleep under the sky. He will not have any roof over the head, especially after he gets married. That's been mentioned in the ancient scriptures. So, you know, there could be some homeless people or people, you know, who have no roof over their head. That's the kind of a combination. The planet Moon placed in fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart, and no other aspect of any other planet on Moon. That person will not have a house. He will not have a rented accommodation even. He'll have to, you know, after marriage, it has been mentioned very clearly, you know, they've qualified it after marriage, he will have to sleep under the skies. Oh my God, that's very, very extreme. Okay, and then, you know, probably, you know, after a lot of effort, he probably will have a roof over his head. That's what it means. It's not that he's going to spend the rest of his life sleeping under the skies, but that's a bad combination, very, very inauspicious combination to have the planet Moon in the fourth house from the Atmakaraka in the D9 chart. Okay, and if the planet Moon is placed there and there is no other aspect of any other planet, not a good combination at all. Okay, so this is was a little discussion of the ancient scriptures, what they describe about you know, how you can determine as to what kind of a house that person will be living, whether he'll be owning a house or whether he will not have his own house, or whether, you know, in extreme cases he may have to spend some time under the roof. Okay, under the skies, not under the roof, but under the skies, along with his wife, if he has that kind of a combination. We just discussed, you know, the planet Moon without any aspect of any other planet on the planet Moon placed in fourth house from the Atmakaraka, placed in the D9 chart. So look at and test out certain chart. This chart which you see on the screen here, we see here in the Navamsha, the Atmakaraka is the planet Jupiter. Okay, and the fourth house from Jupiter is again the zodiac sign of Pisces. Okay, and Jupiter is in a very good position here. So this chart is the chart of the late Maharaja of Gwalior, Madhav Rao Scindia. Okay, so we somehow managed to get his exact time. So we have his chart. The left chart is the Rashi chart, the right one is the D9 chart. So the Atmakaraka Jupiter, and go forth from it, and if you go forth from it, you'll see that it falls in the zodiac sign of Pisces. So the ruler of the Pisces again is Jupiter, which is very strongly placed here. Okay, it is very, very strongly placed here, and so we just discussed that what happens that when fourth house is the planet is exalted or very strong. Okay, we just discussed earlier. If you go refer to the earlier part of the video which we were discussing, what happens is that that person lives, if the planet is either exalted or very strong, it's kind of an exaltation. Jupiter retrograde in its own zodiac sign of of Sagittarius here. So that person lives in a palace, and that's what we see here, that Madhura Sindhya, and as long as he was alive, he used to live in a palace. Okay, I don't remember the name of the palace, but I think it is Jaivilas Palace or something, where he used to live, but he used to live in a palace. And of course, in today's day and ages, there are no palaces, but you know, the Indian government has allowed the previous or the Maharajas to live in a part of their palaces. I don't know the details, but he did live in a palace. As a matter of fact, his son is also living in the same palace, and his son was a minister actually, and he's a politician as well. But we're talking, this chart which you see is Madhav Sindhya's birth chart, who used to live in a palace, and this confirms it. You know, if you look at the chart, 4th house from the Atmakaraka, which is Jupiter, is actually, I think the name of the palace is Jaivilas Palace in Gwalior. Okay, so that's where he lived, and like I said, his son is also living here now, but he lived in a palace, because look at the strength of the 4th house from the planet Jupiter, which is the Atmakaraka. Now, what we just discussed is that in case there's an aspect of Rahu or Saturn, we actually discussed Rahu and Saturn, but we can take it as Rahu or Saturn as well, that what happens if Rahu has an aspect or placement in 4th house from the Atmakaraka. So 4th house from the Atmakaraka, which is Jupiter, and it is being aspected by Rahu here. Okay, so obviously it will have an impact on the 4th house. The 4th house from the Jupiter is Atmakaraka, and that's aspected by Rahu. So it'll also have an influence on the 4th house from Atmakaraka. Okay, so because the 4th house, because the Atmakaraka itself is being aspected by Rahu, the 4th house from Atmakaraka will also have an influence of Rahu, because the zodiac sign 4th house from the Atmakaraka is also ruled by the planet Jupiter. Okay, so there is an influence of Rahu here. And yes, Jaivilas Palace is actually made out of stones. It's not made out of bricks or, you know, clay or bricks or anything. So Jaivilas Palace is, you know, earlier days, like I just mentioned in the early part of the video, that, you know, fortresses and palaces used to be made by stones and joined by lime instead of modern day architecture where bricks and cement is being used. So it confirms that because of the aspect here of the planet Rahu on the Atmakaraka, which is affecting the 4th house from the Atmakaraka, there is some part of an influence of Rahu as well. So first we did confirm that 4th house from the Atmakaraka, which falls in the zodiac sign of Pisces, has you know, shows it's like an exaltation, because Jupiter is so strong there that he lived in a palace. Then there's an aspect of Rahu here which confirms that the palace will have a lot of stones involved here in the building, the architecture. And also there's an aspect of the planet Mars here, and Mars is about some kind of a clay and you know, some kind of bricks as well. So it's not completely stone. As we know, Jaivilas Palace has some component of the earth element, which is, you know, either clay or or cement or bricks rather, not cement but bricks. So there is a component of baked clay and bricks here, and that's thanks to the planet Mars. So it's a mix of all. So go and try out several other charts based on what principles we have studied today on the principle or the shloka, which gives us, you know, the 4th house from the Atmakaraka and the D9 chart or the Karakamsa, as given to us in the ancient scriptures, and then you can come to some kind of a conclusion. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on the ancient scriptures about what kind of a house you will have, what kind of house you'll be living in. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel, check out my website, there is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic in Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.